Despite all the previous investigations and all the talk about partisan agendas, I'm here to honor those we lost and to do what I can to aid those who serve us still.
There have been numerous investigations into what really happened that September night in Benghazi, Libya. Numerous times seeking the truth. Numerous times determined to find out why Americans were butchered. The stakes have never been higher, as the American people are tiring of these show trials and they want some hard findings in action. All culminating in former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton front and center today to face tough questions. With some already convinced this is about nothing more than politics. Answers, please, from those who cover such events. He is the veteran political reporter for the National Review Online, Joel Gehrke, joined by the veteran political opinion writer and blogger for The Hill and other outlets, Brent Budowsky. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for being here. And I tell you what, Joel, let me start with you. In the hearings, Hillary Clinton in front of everybody, did anything come out that was the smoking gun that the Republicans can now hang their hat on and say, we got her?
I think we definitely learned something new here today, and that is came out when Jim Jordan, the Ohio Republican, was asking Secretary Clinton about some of the comments she made the night of the attack, and he produced an email. It's a summary of a conversation that she had with the Egyptian Prime Minister, and it showed that she had said at the night of the attack, she was saying in private that we know that this had nothing to do with the YouTube video. This was a planned, coordinated attack. So that was certainly, from a Republican point of view, one of the high points of the hearing, and one of the really new revelatory moments.
Brent, it would certainly seem that when that email came out, we start talking about that video again. It would seem that is the spot, that's what everybody's going to focus on. Did they get her?
No. Going into this hearing, there was a CNN poll released today with ORC that showed 72% of the American people agree with me that this whole hearing is a political charade, a waste of taxpayers' money, and an attack on Hillary Clinton. 72% of Americans. My guess, after the hearing today, is that it'll probably go up to 78%, which will be equal to the unpopularity of the Congress, according to Real Clear Politics. So that you have an unpopular Republican Congress, 78% unpopular, and a Benghazi Committee that in the latest poll released today shows that 72% believe that the committee itself is biased and partisan and political. I wrote a column in The Hill today that called for the Ethics Committee in the House to investigate the Benghazi Committee to see if it's abusing the rules of the House and the taxpayer trust by turning this into the longest negative political partisan television ad in American history against one person for one purpose. It's against Hillary Clinton to defeat her in a campaign. That is not why taxpayers use their money to fund the Congress.
Okay, granted.
And that's why 72% of Americans agree with what I just said.
Granted, indeed, on that, but let me throw up a couple of things here. I get all the numbers in here, but what about the fact that there would seem to be a discrepancy here regarding emails and the video and what Mrs. Clinton had said, what people said around her as well, and the fact that people will come up and say, you know this, Brent, that before in all those other investigations, we didn't have these emails and they are showing us a trail.
No, you're absolutely right in the sense that Hillary Clinton has accepted responsibility repeatedly. This is actually the third time she's testified personally on this. And she said it could have been handled better. She took responsibility for not handling it as well as maybe it could have been. I think that is true. I have said that myself. I think Hillary Clinton would be the first to agree. And I think the American people have already factored that in. There's no question about it. I would like to see responsibility taken, for example, by Republicans who supported Paul Ryan's attempt in a budget to cut $200 million to $300 million of embassy security spending, which would make a bad situation worse. And I don't think Republicans should be proud that they tried to do that. And Democrats, to their credit, resisted it.
Okay, now, let me come back to you then, Joel. Knowing what has been said, knowing what Brent has said here, knowing that there will be, and there likely will be, let's face it, the people who back Hillary Clinton, it wouldn't make a difference if you had the smoking gun actually smoking sitting on the table. They would probably actually still go for her and they would still vote for her. But how do the Republicans now take what they learned today, what they learned with regard to the email, the video? How do they then put this, or can they put it all together to make it stick and make it something that will make a difference?
Well, we need to see what happens with the rest of the hearing's still going on. They're adjourned right now, but there's more to come today. There's going to be more to come with Trey Gowdy said there's going to be another 20 interviews of new witnesses. So we'll wait on all that. As for whether what the American people end up thinking about Secretary Clinton, one difficulty she's had, certainly she's got a solid core of support, but she's also got a lot of trust issues. People that tend to think that she's dishonest. So the idea that, emails showing that she's saying one thing in private that is potentially bad for her in the administration and another thing in public, which happens to be good for her in the administration, that's not going to help her credibility issues. As for the question of whether this is a waste of taxpayer money, or whether the American people are going to decide that this is unpopular or something, that might be, but we're also, I think that Democrats held 77 hearings on the Iraq War, which was another very important issue. The Benghazi Committee spent about $4 million. Part of the reason this has gone on so long is that Secretary Clinton hasn't been producing documents. They only got the ambassador who was killed. They got his emails just 2 days ago. So this has gone on for a long time. I saw a report today pointing out that the federal government spent more on researching, I think it was origami condoms and how sexual orientation affects obesity. So the idea that this is just such an unprecedented.
Well, let's throw this in there. Let's throw this in there then. Brent, let me get to you. Joel makes a very good point here. There have been other times when a tremendous amount of taxpayer money has been spent in order to find the truth. But there are those people out there who would say right now, we have not had the chance to find the truth until we got these emails. We're getting into the server, and Hillary Clinton has been stonewalling from day one. So no matter how long it takes, we've got to find out the truth here. This is what many of the people are saying on the Republican side. We've got to find the truth, and if it takes 8 hearings or 80 hearings, it's what's necessary for this nation. How do you answer that?
Well, you want to find the truth. Most of the truth, if not all of it, has been found out. But they
most of it, but not all of it, right, Brent? Not all of it. That's the key.
Please. They wasted 2 years and $5 million, and the big deal that they came up with today is a fellow named Sidney Blumenthal, who most voters think is a car dealer in New Jersey, if you ask who he is.
Wait a minute, isn't he? I thought he was this whole time.
Well, I'm not going to touch that one. But no, I don't disagree with our guest that Hillary has to regain trust from a lot of people. I've written that myself. I mean, I support her strongly, but she's not perfect. And one thing I learned the hard way is none of these people are perfect at the presidential level. But they have not uncovered anything. This is a witch hunt. This is a sham. This is a fraud. This is the longest negative campaign ad. What they should have done is they should have had 8 months ago, 10 months ago, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and CIA director who were there at the time of Benghazi in an intelligent panel appearing together professionally and calmly to say what went wrong and what could they do right to make sure it doesn't happen again. They didn't do that. They didn't have the Secretary of Defense. They didn't have the Director of Central Intelligence. They didn't have the National Intelligence Director. They didn't have the National Security Council. This was one attack on one person, a defamation attack on Hillary Clinton, and 72% of the American people agree with what I just said.
Well, okay, 72% agree, but I got news for you. There's probably a lot of people out there who also agree that these need to be done, that these hearings need to be held. I only got a minute left here, so Joel, let me come to you. Do you believe that enough was learned, at least at this point? I know we've got more to go. That the Republicans, that the challengers to Hillary Clinton can use this and it will make a dent.
In some ways, Hillary Clinton had a pretty good day today, but that revelation that she was saying in private, she was saying that the video had nothing to do with this. We know it was a terrorist attack. And in public, they were blaming it on the video, and their statements, they hedged a little bit in their public statements, but everybody got the message. All the press got the message. This was because of a YouTube video, nothing they could control. And they certainly didn't go out and correct that misunderstanding when the press started writing those headlines. I mean, there are other emails in there showing that the White House was very worried about the politics of this. That's a State Department email.
Brent, I only have 20 seconds left. You got to admit that was a damning comment.
A damning comment that will be soon forgotten. We need to make sure this thing doesn't happen again. Not under Democrats, not under Republicans. The committee didn't do it. Honorable men and women in Congress should do their job and prevent these tragedies from not happening again, and not to make it a political partisan spectacle.
We are still going to find out if this indeed does become a spectacle, because I have a feeling that we're just at the beginning of what could be a spectacle once again. Brent Budowsky, Joel Gehrke, gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining us. We will do this again. Another puzzling comment from Ben Carson, this time about censorship on college campuses. It's part of Around the Dial with Jerry Doyle next on the fastest 60 minutes in news.